All right, the countdown continues to Christmas. We're 3 days away from Christmas, and it's time to continue our New York Jets conversation. We'll give you guys a little bit more on Jets Commanders. We'll also talk about a couple of free agency items. I'm sure that will piss some people off in the middle of a season, but I sent out 2 polls. I'm interested in seeing those results as well. All that and more. Let's roll.
Zoink. It is unequivocally the Super Bowl for New York Jet fans.
Field Yates, baby. Field gosh darn Yates. Let's bring him on the show.
Come on, people. Connor Rogers is joining the show. What's up, Connor? But Trevor gosh darn Sycamore, baby, for me, personally, my favorite New York Jet of all time.
Wow, it's great to be on. What an intro that was right there.
Paul, nobody does an intro like you, man.
Paul, you give the best intro of literally any podcast that I've ever been.
I'm gonna lose my gosh darn bananas.
Hey everybody, my name is Paulson Jr., aka Boy Green. I'm the New York Jets digital reporter for Every.com, but I want to make this clear because I know we're going to get some criticism in the comments for, again, talking about some futuristic free agency topics when the Jets still have a couple of games to play. I just want to make this clear, put it out on the table. We attempted to have a Washington Commanders insider on the show yesterday to break down the X's and O's, and he didn't show up. So, I mean, you got nobody to blame but yourself, people, as I attempted to do so. So we will give a little bit of that. We will give a prediction at the end. Plus, we're waiting for the big news, which, of course, is who the hell is playing quarterback. It seems like it's Trevor Siemian. Zach Wilson did not practice yesterday, but we should get official word from Robert Saleh, which should come in a couple of hours when he speaks around noonish. 11:30, somewhere in that ballpark. We should get official word on who will be starting, but my full expectation is that will be Trevor Siemian. More on that later. Let's bring in my guy. We do this every couple Fridays, and why not? Right ahead of Christmas. NY Jets situation report. Gunny Gumby reporting for duty. Good morning, Gunny.
Good morning. How you doing, brother? It's been a minute. I feel
I'm doing awesome,
I've
man.
missed you. I've missed you, man.
Yeah, I know. I miss you too, man. Every time I gotta catch up, I'm like, all right, let me tune into some green bean Gumby action. Let's get that working in the pot to try to catch up on you guys because you guys are freaking great. So it's good to finally catch up, man. You get all the Christmas shopping done? You all finished there?
Yeah, I got everything done. The last thing came in yesterday, so I'm all done now. Now it's just a matter of getting to Monday morning.
Okay. Well, yeah. Well, God bless for both of us as we get there to that conversation. And I will say quickly on this Jets Commanders thing. Then we'll get into 2 polls. I'm curious. You will reveal your thoughts to the fans that are at their fingertips here.
Let's get it.
I mentioned on the show yesterday, but just so people know, currently the Jets have. I just tweeted this out last night. Let me see where we at here. Yeah, 7th overall pick. That's right. So Tankathon shout out there for 7th overall. However, with a win like the Jets beating the Commanders, they could drop all the way to 12th. That is possible with the calculations. But with a loss, Jets losing, they could go all the way up to the 4th overall pick. So there is a dramatic draft implication aspect here. Which is possible. Gunny, how are you operating now that the Jets are mathematically eliminated? And plus the Jets' opponent as well, Washington, has also been mathematically eliminated from the playoffs. And then you hear me say that nugget, that with a win-loss, it could either go as high as the 4th overall pick or the 12th overall pick. So some dramatic changes in there. And there's still 3 games left to play. How are you operating as a Jets fan right now?
Oh, I am definitively in team tank mode. I want the best possible opportunity for us to improve for next season. And I know it's the unpopular opinion to root for losses, but you know what? We've been losing anyway, and we weren't rooting for them. At least now, at this point, we can enjoy watching some of these games because the Jets will actually do what we want them to do. But something tells me they are going to disappoint us, and they are going to win a game they shouldn't win with the 3 remaining, and we won't have a top 5 pick, which is definitely going to be infuriating. But no, I'm team tank, man. I'm definitely in team tank. Let's go ahead and get as high as we can to go ahead and try to get this team as best as it can for next year.
You know, it is pretty hilarious that early in the season, right, everyone's rooting for the Jets, and then, more times than not, if you look at the record they've lost, and you're like, all right, fine, you bastards, just lose, so at least I can be right in my prediction, and then they win, you're like, son of a...
Yep, exactly.
Yeah.
That's how they do us, man. That's how they do us.
Unbelievable. So we will see what happens again. The major injury news. So we'll be talking about that with Ty Butler tomorrow morning when we have the full injury report. So we should have 99% of that information, both from Salah and then later today when that Friday injury report comes out. So we should have the full Monty on that. But like I said, I expect Trevor Siemian to be the guy. That would be the fourth different starting quarterback the New York Jets have trotted out, and that would be the eighth different quarterback that the Jets have trotted out in the last 2 years. So wow. So boy, yeah. Those are all real stats. I'm afraid. So take your lump of coal, people. That's
Life
it.
of a Jets fan.
Yeah, it's one of a kind. Gunny. One of a kind. That's for sure. Well, okay. So with all that depressing stuff aside, again, we'll get to a Jets Washington prediction before we get out of here. At the end of the show. But I do want to bring up two things here. So Rich Cimini kind of did an article talking about some big offseason questions for the New York Jets. And in a couple of categories like backup quarterback and wide receivers, he mentioned possible names that the Jets could target. So I put out a poll, put all the options that Rich Cimini said in separate polls, like, oh, quarterback, here are the names he mentioned. The great people, vote. Wide receiver potential options. Great people, vote. And we have results. So I will show you those results, and then you can reveal who you want in this group. Let's see, where are we going to start here? We'll start here. All right. Where are we here? Okay, so backup quarterback. All right. So Rich Cimini mentioned three possible names the Jets could pursue as a QB2. And the three names were Ryan Tannehill, currently of the Tennessee Titans, Gardner Minshew, currently of the Indianapolis Colts, and Jameis Winston of the New Orleans Saints. So we had over 1,300 votes, and here's how the voting split up. 47% of the fans wanted Minshew, 35% wanted Ryan Tannehill, and 17.2% wanted Jameis Winston. Gunny, if you could have any one of these individuals be the primary backup to Aaron Rodgers in 2024, who would it be and why?
And this is why I believe Jets fans are some of the most intelligent fans on the planet, because Gardner Minshew is really the only answer here. I wanted Gardner Minshew last year. I thought he would have been a great compliment to Aaron Rodgers had he gone down. I honestly believe Gardner Minshew could have potentially kept us more relevant throughout the entire year. But yeah, no, I love Gardner Minshew, man. I love what he's doing right now with the Colts. I love what he did with the Eagles. I love what he did when he was in Jacksonville. The dude just has a swagger about him. I love seeing him play. He is by far the right choice here. Gardner Minshew is who I would like to be the backup quarterback for the New York Jets next season.
Yeah, I'll take the L here because I'm sure no one remembers it. I haven't been dunked on with it, but last offseason, me and Buffalo are arguing about, what could happen at backup quarterback. And he was a guy that was a proponent of Gardner Minshew. And I said, people, I think we overrate Gardner Minshew. I said, there's a reason he's been a backup everywhere. Sure, he's had some cult-like pops, but he's just a weird guy with a Fu Manchu. And that's all I thought. I did not believe that the hype was warranted to the level. And obviously, I've been dead wrong. Well, think about this. This is like although the Jets don't play the Colts, it is like looking in the mirror a little bit. Jets, not to the same level, obviously. Jets lose Aaron Rodgers, 4 plays into the season. Boy, we got to go to the backup all year. Obviously, it hasn't been great. Indianapolis in the first 3-4 games of the year, 5 games, whatever it is, lose Anthony Richardson. And then all of a sudden Gardner Minshew comes in, and then now they're firmly in the playoff mix. So it is looking a little bit like, man, what could have been if you had the right quarterback? Because a good quarterback can mask a lot of deficiencies on your team. Gardner Minshew hasn't been perfect. He's not going to the Pro Bowl, but he's obviously has been good enough to guide his team through choppy waters and get them to a place of competition. The Jets, on the other hand, are eliminated from the playoffs for the 13th straight year. So I was not fully, to be candid, on the Gardner Minshew bandwagon. But now, after seeing the success he's had, I believe he would be an intriguing option. All of them are better than what we have. So bluntly. So although I saw Thomas Morstead last night, obviously as a former teammate of Jameis Winston down there in New Orleans. So he said really good things about him. Tannehill has a lot of experience, but hopefully I think we can all agree that none of these options, hopefully if any of them end up on the Jets, none of them are playing unless it's a
Facts.
blowout or
Exactly.
preseason or something. I mean, so I think that's what we're all hoping for at the end of the day. I'd probably lean Minshew, but I'm going to be honest. I'd be open to any of these guys coming in. And to be honest, a little part of me would love Winston because he's just so willy nilly. Let's friggin' roll, baby. Let's just cut it loose. Now that's probably a little dangerous with this defense. I could put them in some compromising positions, but at least he throws a couple of tutties in there. It's not just all interceptions. So that part of the equation kind of intrigues me a little bit. So there is a little bit of everything here from that perspective, but we will see. I will just push back on this, not on you in particular, Gunny, but I've heard this chatter since this poll came out. We got a lot of comments on it. People said Gardner's going to be a starter next year, and I'm like, where?
No.
I totally push back on that. I feel like people are, whoa, okay, we've gone too far. We're drinking too much of the Kool-Aid. He's done really well, but I think he's just going to be a really nicely, highly paid backup. I don't think he's going to be a starter next year. Do you?
No, I agree with you 100%. I don't think he has starter measurements or performance level. I think he's the guy you bring in when, you know what I'm saying, you lose somebody or we're in a blowout or whatever the case might be. He's going to be a high-end freaking backup quarterback for his career. That's his ceiling. And I think he's right there in that. He's a high-end backup quarterback for the Colts, and he's doing enough for the team to win. He's not the reason they're winning games. He's doing enough for the team to win as a collective. So he's a backup quarterback. Nothing wrong with that. You can make a great living being a backup quarterback in the NFL. But no, I think some people that believe he has starter capability. You're reaching. You're really reaching. I guess we can start calling them the Minshew truthers, I guess, because I love the guy. I think he's awesome. But I'm nowhere near in the mindset of thinking that he's going to be a starter, a legitimate starting quarterback in the NFL. High-end backup.
Which, again, I've heard some players come on my radio show before and say that's the best job in sports, baby, holding a clipboard and never getting hit. And just you're the break the glass emergency, and everyone loves the backup quarterback. The grass is always greener. If things are going wayward with the starter, like, could that backup be there? And Minshew just kind of goes, So, I don't think that's bad at all. So there we are. That is we'll do a couple of these, I'm sure, throughout not only the season, but the offseason as well when we get to free agency and other things of that nature. But a solid, 1,300 people. Appreciate all the voting there. That's very interesting. Now we get a little bit more complicated potentially. I mean, I guess we'll see what you think, Gunny. Wide receiver. I think we can all agree that that's a need. Garrett Wilson needs either a Robin to a Batman or a Batman to a Batman. Hell, I'd take another Garrett Wilson if those exist. A cloning machine exists out there in the universe. Garrett Wilson would be at the top of my list to make another copy of. That's good. So, but who the hell is coming in at wide receiver? So here we go. Let's throw these names on the board. Here we go. We had over 1,900 votes, so a little sexier with the wide receiver. I'm not surprised. Here are 4 possible wide receivers the Jets could pursue. And before we even start, I just want to make this clear. I believe we have Devontae, who's trade possibility. T. Higgins, who's of the Bengals, free agent. Mike Evans of the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, free agent. Michael Pittman Jr. of the Colts, free agent. Of course, Adams on the Raiders. So obviously involved as a subtext to these poll, you have to evaluate the fact that Devontae did win the poll overwhelmingly. So here was the question. Of these 4 possible wide receiver names that Rich Cimini mentioned, if you could only have one from this group, who would it be? And people overwhelmingly picked Davante Adams. But remember, it will take a trade asset to acquire Davante on top of the money, obviously, you have to give him. But he won 43%, and then it's a singular bars all the way down. T. Higgins got 22% of the votes, Mike Evans 20%, and Michael Pittman Jr. 13.3% of the votes. The other 3, the bottom 3 of that list, I believe, are all set to be unrestricted free agents, although those teams could tag those players, and that would maybe have to be a tag and trade scenario. But considering all these names on the board, Gunny, I once again ask you, if you could only have one name from this group and you could add it to the team, who would it be and why?
So I understand that Davante Adams, everybody wanted Davante Adams, and if he was going to be a free agent and we could negotiate for him, I'd be right there with everybody. I think that's a great combination to bring him back with Aaron Rodgers. He knows this offense. He knows Aaron Rodgers. They're tied to the hip, right? But what if Aaron Rodgers goes down again? I think people keep forgetting, like, we're doing this because we know the tie between him and Aaron Rodgers. If Aaron Rodgers goes down again, that's when I get concerned about bringing in a Davante Adams. We see him right now with the Raiders. He's not looking like Davante Adams because he doesn't have the elite quarterback to go ahead and do what he can do. So for me, I want Mike Evans. I want the guy who's been able to go ahead and consistently put up numbers and stats. Anybody behind center, it didn't matter. He's doing his thing regardless. He's making it easy on the quarterback. Just throw the ball somewhere in this area. I'll go get it. I think Mike Evans would be an outstanding complement to what Garrett Wilson does, and will be a nightmare for defenses, because if Garrett Wilson isn't freaking juking you out of your shoes to get open, you can throw it up to Michael Evans, and he's going to give you that 60-40% like catch radius. He's going to 60% of the time he's coming down with it, and that's really, really, really good. Give me the guy who's never had 1,000-yard season every freaking season, and again, it has not mattered who the quarterback is. I think Mike Evans gives us the best combination of compliment to a guy like Garrett Wilson, but also we don't have to worry about him like falling off, because he's literally proven he's gonna make plays with anybody at quarterback. So Mike Evans is who I want on this list. I want him really bad. I'm gonna do an honorary one that's not on here. I'm also a fan of Calvin Ridley. I know he's looked a little sus this year, but he's a younger cat. He's gonna come a little bit cheaper than these guys, I believe. Maybe not as cheap as Michael Pittman. And he's 28 years old, I think it is, 29 years old, so he can also give you some longevity. So Calvin Ridley would be the other option, believe it or not, that I would actually put in there after Mike Evans. But yeah, the Devontae Adams things, I get it. I 100% get it, but I think it's all because we've seen him with Aaron Rodgers. My concern is, what if Aaron Rodgers goes down again? So Devontae has looked pretty normal, without an Aaron Rodgers type player back there with him. So I want Mike Evans. Give me the guy that can't lose if you put anybody back there.
A lot of great points there, Gunny, that I think some people may forget. Number one, just from a construct standpoint, in a perfect world, if I could have a basketball team, I want one. And what do I mean by that? You have Garrett Wilson, who provides abilities X. You bring in Mike Evans. He's a different talent. Now, I'm not trying to compare and say better, bigger, whatever, but bigger, yes, specifically. Like, he's a bigger cat. He provides a different skill set that will, again, yin-yang kind of complement with Garrett Wilson. Again, if I could just copy Garrett Wilson, I would certainly do that. But if you go another way and just try to get a proven talent who has literally gotten 1,000 yards every year of his career, it's been an outstanding record. And think about the wild quarterbacks, Jameis Winston, Tom Brady, Baker Mayfield. Like, it's been all over the place, and there's been a consistency there, and there hasn't been that diva attitude that when a lesser quarterback has been in there. I don't remember hearing Mike Evans going, "Oh man, our quarterbacks really suck." Like, he just seems to be a guy that is a lunch pail from that perspective, just punches in. Now, he's older, of course. He's in that 30 to 31 range as the offseason will develop, so that part of the equation you have to account for. But the good news is that he just has such a sterling resume that you feel really good about that factoid. Like, for instance, let's look at some of the other names on this list real quick. So we got T. Higgins. He's one of the younger ones of the group. Wild potential, but he's also incredibly inconsistent. He's had a lot of kind of bad drops. He's had crazy great catches, but there's kind of a roller coastery nature to his game. Now, I get it from a free agency perspective. If T. Higgins makes it to the open market, you could get a guy coming off his rookie deal. And remember, what's also kind of funny is that in the draft that the Packers traded up to take Jordan Love, the draft experts thought the Packers were trading up to get T. Higgins in that draft. Instead, they got Jordan Love. So wouldn't it be kind of funny that a few years later, he ends up getting T. Higgins a few years later, just in a different shade of green? That would be kind of hilarious if that ended up happening. So T. Higgins is interesting, but I think wildly inconsistent. Pittman, I think, is just underrated. I just don't think people give Pittman Jr., who's a guy I loved in that draft a couple years ago, the proper love he deserves coming out. So Pittman's a guy I like a lot, but Devontae is sexy. I mean, there's no question about it. There is a sex appeal there, but I will tell you this. I want to make this very clear because I just saw an article from Bleacher Report that said something to the effect of the 6 trades that could shake up the entire offseason. And, not so creative. They had a Jets-Raiders trade for Devontae Adams. The problem is the piece of the puzzle they included in this trade proposal was the Jets' 7th overall pick this year. There is no – I laugh too. There is no, and maybe I'm just an arrogant Jets fan, but there's no friggin' way. No. Zero chance. But that's why we get complicated. Okay, if I if I scoff at the price of 7th overall to the Raiders, and then I say, well, you can't get a second, we don't have that, then I'm like, well, we got a 3rd. or we got we could do some Aaron Rodgers-esque conditional pick that could rise based on incentives or this or that or what have you. But besides that, that makes, I would imagine, unless Devontae just goes to the Raiders and say, I intend to play for the Jets, you better get my ass over there. Outside of that happening, it's going to be very complicated to get Adams from A to B with the New York Jets. So that could kind of change it as well. Also, I just want to make this clear. Okay, Gunny? My father comes jumping in these comments all the time, and the holiday season and all that jazz. I just want to I want to bring this up. Because he was bringing up Gardner Minshew stats. Here are Gardner Minshew stats: 2,700 yards, 14 touchdowns, 8 picks, 63% completion percentage. Okay, not bad. Now, again, not Pro Bowl, but not bad. But my father made a very incorrect statement, and I'm about to dunk on him, as any good son will do. He says those stats are better than any Jets quarterback in the past 10 to 15 years. T.O., boop, 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 boop. Excuse me?
Forget.
2015. Ryan Fitzpatrick.
It is.
3,900 passing yards. 29 touchdowns. So let me pull back up these stats real quick. 3,900 yards, 1,200 yards mark. Yeah, that's better. 29 touchdowns, double the touchdowns. Okay, so what are we talking about here? So again, I don't say that with a lot of pride. I'm going to be blunt. That Ryan Fitzpatrick is second in single season passing yards, second in single season passing touchdowns, or number one. I think he just edged Vinny. I think Vinny had 28 in the late 90s. But the point is that Fitzpatrick being among the career leaders in all the single season Jet stats is not something I say with pride. It's something I whisper. I kind of, I'm in the confessional. I'm like, Father, forgive me. He's like, yeah, what's up? I'm like, Ryan Fitzpatrick 2015. And that's when he the priest is supposed to look forward, but then he turns at you and says, excuse me, Paul, is that you? I'm like, hey, Father, I was just trying to spill my guts here on the table here, Father. He said, of course, continue. So it's like one of those that, again, I don't feel great about it, but it is the truth. So yes, those stats are better than a Jets quarterback. T.O., pal. T the hell O. Time out, pal. I don't think so. Try to dunk on the Jets. There's a lot of reason to dunk on the Jets. And also, let's full circle spin it. We got the update, right? All those people losing their shit that Nick Bodden got cut ahead of Christmas. Boo-hoo! Aaron Rodgers took his spot. Guess what? Nick Bodden's already back on the team. So people, shut the hell up. Shut the hell up out there who are trying to dunk on the Jets for placating to Rodgers doing this silly shit. He's already back in the practice squad. And then Rappaport said he's going to get elevated for every game. And guess what? His full contract is guaranteed because he's a vested veteran for the beginning of the year. So he didn't lose any money either. I mean, come on, man. Gunny, what was your take on all that crap?
I thought it was hilarious, the things we look at to get mad at. I'm like, I think Aaron Rodgers, this whole thing was done, yes, to appease Aaron Rodgers. But to be upset that we had to cut the fullback to go ahead and make room, what are we doing? What are we getting mad at? Like, what has Nick done for us this season to make us feel like, oh my God, we just lost a perennial All-Pro to bring on Aaron Rodgers? To me, the fact that it was a big deal was made out of this. I just think the Jets fans are just mad. We're just mad about everything, and we're going to complain about everything given the opportunity to. And can we blame them at this point? Can we blame them? I mean, all we've been given is the opportunity to be mad at this team.
Well, yeah, I guess that's a fair point, but nonetheless, I just want to make that very clear to all the people, Jet fans or non-Jet fans. Enjoy your jokes, pal, but he's already back on the team, so shut up. All the people saying, "Oh, wow, the Jets are a bunch of idiots," and maybe they are for a lot of reasons, but that ain't one of them, baby.
No,
that
facts.
Ain't one of them. So, okay, interesting, guys. I'm interested in your comments, whether you're watching live on the show or after the fact. Let us know of those options, which quarterback or wide receiver or both, quite frankly. So let us know in both of those in the comment section. Which would you prefer? Again, the quarterbacks, to recap, were Gardner Minshew, Jameis Winston, and Ryan Tannehill. Again, these were three potential names Rich Cimini mentioned in his column about guys the Jets could potentially pursue. And then the wide receivers, Devontae Adams, Mike Evans, T. Higgins, and Michael Pittman Jr. Three of those free agency, one trade. So just kind of keep that in mind as potential options as you guys are answering that. All right, let's go full circle. We'll round it back. Jets Commanders. It looks like Sam Howell versus probably Trevor Siemian. Excellent. Who's getting his first start of the year, baby. Wow. First time Jets are starting four quarterbacks since I think it was the 80s. Excellent. In a single season. Phenomenal. Gunny, give us a Christmas Eve prediction for Jets Commanders. Edge of our seats. Can't wait, Jet fans, for this wonderful gift ahead of the holidays. What's the prediction? What's happening in that game?
Well, we've got the worst defense versus the worst offense in the NFL. Like you couldn't
Yes.
ask for more of a mid-off if you tried.
Yeah.
This is going to be really the telling of whether or not this offense can take advantage of a weaker defense. And in all actuality, if I'm sitting here telling you the truth, I think they can't. I think that number 32 defense is going to go ahead and clamp down on that number 32 offense, and the Jets will wind up taking an L on this game unless our defense can score points. If our defense can score points, I believe we win the game. If our defense can't score points, and I'm not talking about a turnover. No, score points. I think this is an L, and I'm okay with it. We'll lose to the Commanders on Christmas Eve. I can go to sleep and still open up my nice gifts on Monday morning, watch my kids open up their gifts. I'll still feel good on Monday. So this is, if I was going to have to take an L against a team that's an embarrassing L, this is the weekend to do it. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think the worst defense versus the worst offense, that worst defense will somehow, some way show out. In fact, I'd be willing to bet if you're in fantasy right now and needed a freaking defense, which one of the co-hosts of the Batter Jets fans that I do a show with did, they grabbed the Commanders' defense because they were down. It was either the Steelers or the freaking, I think it was the Ravens against the 49ers. He was like, you know what? I'm going to grab the Commanders' defense. And I thought, you know what? That's genius. You might get 20 points off of the defense right there. So, yeah, I do believe this offense is going to let us down, continue to let us down, continue to be historically bad. I mean, literally historically bad. And this defense will go. A good old Riverboat Ron is going to go ahead and have a field day on us this Sunday.
Yeah, we'll see. The only other nugget to share is that Sam Howell has been sacked more than any quarterback in the NFL this season. So the Jets' defensive line may be licking their chops, but how could all the rest of them, considering all those numbers you just said, 32 versus 32, how can other chops not being licked about looking the other way around? So it will be interesting to say the least. But like I said, the massive draft implications, there's no playoff implications. Both teams, like I said, have already been eliminated. But the draft implications are massive because Washington right now is in front of the New York Jets. They currently have that 4th overall pick. And if the Jets win, that creates perhaps too big of a gap with only, 2 games left to play with a 2-game gap that could not be overcome. However, the other way around, perhaps it could be because, again, think about it. Up next, we're going to have the short week. So enjoy the holidays and Thursday Night Football. Joe Flacco, righty, old Jets legend, against the Jets and then the Patriots. There's a lot of connective tissue here for these games. Nonetheless, it should be very interesting, for lack of a better word, for these games, for the final 3 games as we head to a important offseason for the New York Football Jets. Gunny, we got to do this more often, man. We got to do this more often, brother.
100%. You say when, brother, you know I'm here. This is always
your wife, unfortunately, she picked the Packers. That's okay, but at least she had better taste in men. So there you go, Gunny. She won that one.
That's
okay,
facts,
and then all your and then all your beautiful children. Happy holidays, Merry Christmas, brother, and I'm sure we'll connect again soon, pal.
Hey, same to you, man. Merry Christmas, brother.
All right, thanks everybody for tuning in for Boy Green Daily. We'll be back tomorrow morning, like I said, with Ty Butler of ESPN Radio. We'll be doing that. Also, I see Dom C popping in last second. I want to give him a shout out on Twitter. We'll have Dom C. I believe that's on the New Year's show. So New Year's Eve, maybe. I don't know. One of those shows coming up. We'll be having a Dom C make his debut on Boy Green Daily, which I'm very much looking forward to. So Merry Christmas, everybody, and we will see you tomorrow morning at 7:30 for some more Jets Commanders talk. Should be interesting. Take care. God bless.